house was silent. Too silent. When the millionaire stepped through his marble doorway that afternoon, he expected the usual. Polished floors, quiet rooms, and the faint scent of lemon polish. He didn't expect to hear crying. It was soft at first, barely a whimper, like a wounded bird hidden somewhere deep inside the mansion. He paused, loosening his tie. His meetings had been canceled, his schedule cleared, and he thought he would steal a rare quiet hour at home. But now his brow tightened. Crying. He followed the sound through the wide, echoing hallway, his footsteps sharp against the marble. With every step, the sound grew clearer, rawer, desperate. He hesitated at the kitchen door. The crying wasn't just one voice. It was two. One soft and small, like a baby's whimper. The other was broken, trembling, like glass cracking under pressure. He pushed the door open and froze. There she was. His new maid, hired just 3 weeks ago, collapsed over the sink. Soap suds clung to her trembling hands. Her shoulders shook as silent tears poured down her cheeks. The fluorescent light above caught on something dark on her skin. Bruises, faint but unmistakable, shadowed along her jaw and forearm. But that wasn't what made his chest tighten. What stopped his breath cold was what clung to her back. A baby. Small, fragile, barely able to hold its head up. Its tiny hands curled into the fabric of her uniform as if trying to disappear inside her. The child stirred and gave a soft, pitiful cry, pressing its face against her shoulder. The woman flinched as if burned. She straightened quickly, swiping her face with a trembling cloth, smearing her tears instead of hiding them. Her wide, terrified eyes locked on him. "Senor, I'll finish the dishes, please. Just give me a moment." But her voice cracked and another tear slipped down. The baby whimpered again, clutching tighter. The millionaire didn't speak. He couldn't, his mind raced. Why was there a baby here? Why was his maid crying? Why were there bruises on her face? And what secret pain had just spilled into his perfect silent home? The cloth slipped from her shaking hands and landed in the soapy water with a dull splash. She didn't bend to pick it up. She couldn't. Her body stood in that kitchen, but her mind was back in the tiny, crumbling apartment she had once called home. She had promised herself she would never bring her baby here. She had whispered it over his sleeping form on their first night alone. Work is work. You will never see this place, mi amor. But life had broken that promise for her. Just last night, the walls of their apartment had shaken with shouting. Her husband, his eyes bloodshot, his voice sharp as broken glass, had stood over her, screaming. She had begged him to lower his voice, to not wake the baby, but her pleas only fueled his rage. "You ruined my life," he had spat, slamming his fist into the wall so hard plaster dust rained to the floor. "You and that little chain around my neck, always crying, always needing, always dragging me down." She had tried to hold his arm, to remind him of their vows, of the man he used to be. But his hand had struck her face before she even saw it coming. Pain had exploded across her cheekbone. The baby had screamed. And then, silence. Just the sound of the door slamming behind him as he walked out forever. When the sun rose, there was no trace of him, only a half-empty closet, an empty wallet, and an eviction notice shoved under the door. She had sat on the floor with her son in her arms, rocking him while silent tears soaked the thin fabric of his blanket. She had nothing, no family, no neighbors who cared, no one to watch him while she worked. And so she had wrapped him gently to her back, kissed his soft hair, and whispered, "Forgive me. I can't leave you alone. I'd rather risk everything than leave you crying in an empty room." She had walked for 40 minutes to the mansion, every step heavy with shame and fear. She knew the other staff whispered behind her. She saw their sideways glances, their smirks. They saw her bruises. They saw her hollow cheeks. They saw the way her hands trembled when she carried trays or folded laundry. And now they would see her baby and their whispers would turn to knives. Still, she had chosen this. Because the alternative, leaving her son alone with hunger in his belly and no one to soothe his cries, was unthinkable. And so here she stood, scrubbing dishes in a kitchen that wasn't hers, pretending her tears were just sweat, praying no one would notice the bundle on her back. But someone had noticed, the most powerful man in the house. Her chest ached with panic. This job was the only thread keeping her from collapse. If she lost it, there would be nothing left. Nothing. Except the small boy pressing his face into her shoulder, whimpering softly, too young to understand their world was falling apart, but old enough to feel it. The sink water had gone cold. Her hands were still in it, motionless, though she didn't even feel them anymore. All she felt was the weight of her son pressed against her spine, the weight of her empty purse, the weight of the bruises throbbing beneath her sleeves, reminders of words sharper than any blade. "You're just a chain around my neck." She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing her breath to steady. "Keep scrubbing," she told herself. "Don't cry. Don't let him see. If you lose this job, you lose everything." The sponge screeched against porcelain. She flinched at the sound. Tears blurred the edges of her vision until the sink became a silver smear. She blinked hard, but they came faster, hot, relentless, like they had been waiting too long to be set free. "Lo siento, mi amor," she whispered to the baby, voice trembling. "I'm sorry you have to see me like this." The baby stirred, letting out a tiny sigh. She rocked her shoulders gently, praying he would stay quiet. "Not now. Please, not now." A sudden image flashed in her mind, the landlord's face, cold and flat. "Rent by Friday or you're out." No excuses, Friday was 3 days away. Her chest tightened. A strange, dizzy heat crept up her neck. "Keep going. Don't stop. Just finish these dishes. Just survive one more day." A whimper broke the air. Her body locked. The baby whimpered again, louder this time, the sound slicing through the kitchen like a siren. "No, no, no," she whispered desperately, bouncing her shoulders. "Please, not now. Please stay quiet, please." But he didn't. The whimper grew into a thin, aching cry. His tiny fists tightened in her uniform. Panic clawed up her throat. Her eyes darted to the door as if the millionaire might burst in at any second and end everything. Her breath quickened. Her hands trembled, and then something inside her cracked. She dropped the plate she was holding. It clattered loudly in the sink, water splashing across her apron. Her shoulders sagged, and a strangled sob tore from her chest. She tried to hold it back, biting her lip until she tasted blood. But the sobs came anyway. They came like a storm. Her body folded over the counter. Tears streamed down her face, falling into the cold, greasy water below. She pressed her fist to her mouth to muffle the sound, but her whole body shook with silent screams. The baby cried harder, sensing her unraveling. His small voice filled the kitchen, a fragile echo of her pain. Why us?" she choked, her words breaking. "Why does it have to be like this?" The words dissolved into sobs. Her knees trembled, her vision blurred. For a moment, she wanted to let go of everything, the dishes, the job, the world. Just let it all crash and shatter like glass. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because even as her tears soaked the countertop, her son's cries clawed her back to reality. He needed her, and if she broke now, there would be nothing left for him to hold on to. A sound cut through her sobs, footsteps sharp, echoing, deliberate. Her entire body froze. The baby whimpered against her shoulder, but she didn't dare move. The sound grew, louder, closer, until it stopped just beyond the kitchen door. She held her breath, and then the door creaked open. Millionaire stepped in. He was still loosening his tie, jacket draped over one arm, the afternoon light glinting off his polished shoes. He looked like he'd stepped out of another world entirely, a world where nothing ever cracked or broke. For half a second, he seemed puzzled. And then he saw her. His steps faltered. She was still leaning against the counter, shoulders shaking, tears streaking down her face. Her gloved hands hovered over the sink like she had forgotten what they were for. Soap bubbles slid off her trembling fingers and burst silently on the floor. And there, tied to her back, clutching her like a lifeline, the baby. The baby turned its small face toward him, eyes red from crying, and whimpered softly. The kitchen was silent except for that sound. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her breath came in sharp, frantic gasps. She tried to straighten, tried to force her spine upright, to wipe the tears off her face with the edge of her sleeve, but her hands shook too hard. The cloth slipped from her grip and landed on the tile with a wet slap. Her lips parted, but no words came out. He stared. His eyes flicked from her face to the bruises fading purple beneath her jaw, then to the child pressed tightly against her. Something unreadable crossed his face. She panicked. "Senor, please," she blurted, her voice cracking. "Please let me explain. I only needed..." The words tangled in her throat. Tears blurred her vision again. I'll finish the work, she stammered, desperate. I'll stay late. I'll do anything. Please don't fire me. I can't lose this job. The baby whimpered louder, sensing her fear. She shushed him quickly, bouncing her shoulders with trembling urgency. Shh, mi amor, please. Just a moment, please. Her eyes darted up to the man standing like a statue in the doorway. He hadn't moved. His face was calm, too calm. Her stomach dropped. Silence stretched, sharp and suffocating. He took one slow step forward. She flinched. His gaze swept over her again, steady and cold as glass. What? He said at last, his voice low and even. Is this? The question struck her like a blow. Her lips trembled. She swallowed hard, trying to speak, but her voice was only a whisper. Please, don't tell anyone, she begged. They'll laugh at me. They already do. I had nowhere else. Her voice broke entirely. She stood trembling, small and crushed beneath his shadow, waiting for the words she feared more than anything. You're fired. For a long moment, he just stared at her. No one spoke. The baby whimpered quietly, the only sound in the kitchen. She stood trembling, her eyes wide, chest rising in shallow, panicked gasps, waiting for the word that would shatter her last chance at survival. Fired. Say it. Get it over with. Just say it. Instead, he took another step closer. His eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with something heavier. Something darker. Who did this to you? He asked softly. She blinked. What? The bruises. His gaze swept over her face, her arms. Who hurt you? Her shoulders jolted as if the words had struck her skin. She shook her head quickly, too quickly. Please, senor, don't. It's nothing. It doesn't matter. I need this job. I'll work harder. Please, just don't. I'm not asking about your work. His voice was firmer now, but not loud. It was steady, and somehow broken underneath. I'm asking about you. She froze. No one had asked about her in years. Not her pain, not her story. Only what she could clean, fold, scrub, carry. Her lips parted. No sound came, and then the words tumbled out before she could stop them, raw and trembling. He left. My husband. Last night. He said we were just chains. He hit me when I begged him to stay. He took our last money. I don't even know where he went. Her knees gave way and she sank slowly to the floor, clutching her baby tighter. I have no one, she whispered. No family. No neighbors I can trust. I can't afford a babysitter. If I stayed home today, I would lose this job. And this is all we have left. The words dissolved into tears. She buried her face in her son's hair, rocking him as he whimpered softly. The millionaire's jaw tightened. His hands curled slowly into fists at his sides. Because suddenly, he wasn't seeing her anymore. He was seeing his mother. Years ago, a woman with hollow cheeks and tear-stained eyes, clutching a small boy while her husband stormed out the door with their last paycheck and left them drowning in shame. He remembered the bruises she tried to hide under long sleeves. The way she cried silently at night when she thought he was asleep. The way she whispered, "We will survive somehow. We have to." That boy had been him. His throat burned. His chest ached like something old and buried had just clawed its way to the surface. Look at me, he said quietly. She hesitated, then lifted her tear-streaked face. You are not shameful, he said, voice thick. You are surviving. And I know what that looks like. Because I saw it every day growing up. Her lips trembled. Senor, I swore, he whispered almost to himself, that if I ever had power, I would never let another woman suffer like my mother did. And for the first time since he walked into that room, his cold gaze cracked and she saw grief in his eyes. The kitchen felt weightless for a moment, like the world itself had paused. The baby let out a soft hiccup and then went quiet, his small face pressed to his mother's shoulder. She sat trembling on the floor, eyes swollen, cheeks streaked with salt and shame. She couldn't look at the man standing above her. She expected pity or worse, disgust. Instead, he knelt, slowly, carefully, as if lowering himself into her broken world. The gesture stunned her more than if he had shouted. His expensive suit brushed against the cold tile as he crouched down, eye level with her. His voice was quiet, but there was steel beneath it. You are not just the new maid in this house, he said. Her breath caught. You are a mother, he continued, doing everything in your power to keep your child alive. You are exhausted, you are hurting, and yet you are still here. Her eyes blurred again, but this time not from fear. Her voice cracked. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. They will not see you like this again, he said firmly. Not because you should hide, but because you deserve better. He stood, towering again, but no longer distant. There was purpose in his movements now, sharp and sure. From this moment, he declared, his voice carrying through the kitchen like a promise, you will be treated with dignity under my roof. She blinked. Unsure she'd heard him right. No more scrubbing dishes with a baby tied to your back. No more silent tears. No more fear. Her mouth opened, then closed, like words had forgotten how to form. I will arrange safe childcare for your son, he continued, and a proper room for you both, somewhere warm, somewhere safe. Her chest squeezed tight. Tears gathered again, but softer now. Lighter. And if anyone in this household dares to whisper about you again, his eyes flashed with cold fire. They will answer to me. Something inside her cracked again, but not from pain this time. From relief. She lowered her forehead to her son's soft hair and let out a single shaking sob that seemed to pull months of grief out with it. Not humiliation, not fear, just release. He knelt once more, gently brushing a tear from her cheek with the back of his hand. You've carried enough alone, he said softly. Let someone carry a little of it for you now. Her lips trembled as she whispered, I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, he replied. Just keep going. That's thanks enough. She clutched her son closer, tears falling silently, no longer from despair, but from the shock of unexpected kindness. For the first time in months, her body stopped shaking. For the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone. The sun was setting in soft gold when she opened the door to the room the millionaire had given her. She stood frozen at the threshold, afraid to breathe, as if it might vanish if she stepped inside. The space was small by the mansion's standards, but to her it felt like a palace. A real bed dressed in clean white sheets, a little crib by the window, curtains that fluttered gently in the evening breeze. The scent of fresh linen filled the air, delicate and comforting. Her son stirred in her arms, letting out a sleepy sigh. She smiled faintly. This is yours now, she whispered to him. Ours. Just hours ago, she had been kneeling on a cold kitchen floor, drowning in shame. Now she stood in a safe room, her baby's future no longer hanging by a thread. The tears came again, but they were different this time. Lighter. Softer. She set him carefully in the crib, watching his tiny chest rise and fall. His small fingers curled, unclenched, and curled again, reaching even in sleep as if he knew safety was finally near. She sat on the edge of her bed, fingers tangled together, trying to absorb it all. How had everything changed in one single day? No, not everything. One thing had changed. Someone had chosen to care. A knock came at the door. She rose quickly, nerves still stitched into her muscles. When she opened it, he stood there. No longer in a crisp suit, just a simple shirt, sleeves rolled up. There was no trace of the cold, distant man she had feared when she first arrived. Is he asleep? He asked gently. She nodded. Just now. His eyes softened, resting briefly on the crib. Good, he's safe now. She swallowed the lump in her throat. I don't know why you're doing this for us, he paused. Because someone once did it for me. Her breath caught. My mother, he said quietly. We were left with nothing. A stranger helped us. That kindness built the man I became. I swore I'd pass it on. She blinked hard, vision blurring again. Thank you, she whispered. He gave a small nod, almost shy. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll talk about what you want for your future. Not just survival, dreams. The word felt foreign in her mouth, but not impossible anymore. After he left, she turned off the lamp and sat on the floor beside the crib. She rested her forehead against the wood and whispered to her baby, Maybe now we're going to be okay. The baby stirred, eyelids fluttering, and gave a tiny, content sigh. For the first time in so long, she let herself imagine a future where she wasn't running on fear, where mornings began with peace, not panic. She saw herself working, studying, smiling. She saw her son growing up laughing instead of shrinking from every sound. She saw light, and as the last glow of sunset slipped across the walls, she finally laid down, pulling the blanket over her body. The sheets were warm, the pillow soft, and for the first time in years she slept without tears on her cheeks. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but tonight, they were safe. They were together, and because one man chose kindness, her story was no longer just about surviving. It was about beginning again.